Hey Internet, I want to talk today about hypersensitivity. I believe this is a not particularly well known disorder. However, it affects up to 10% of the population, so it's a significant number of people who may or may not be aware that they're struggling, and hopefully this video will give them some insight into that and maybe ways that they can make some changes in their environment to make life a bit easier for themselves. So I recognize that everybody has their struggles in life. There are a multitude of conditions out there, disabilities and so on. Hypersensitivity is quite subtle on the outside, but it can manifest in a profound way for the individuals who struggle with it. And it's a pretty broad umbrella of hypersensitivities, including things in your environment such as light intensity, flashing lights, noises, certain noises. It can be other people's behavior, can be touch, it can obviously be food allergies as well. It's technically a form of diversity, biological diversity, and in some cases neurological diversity, and in those cases it's often associated with traits of the autism spectrum. It means that certain environments are particularly stressful for certain individuals. And obviously, if you discover what your stress triggers, anxiety triggers are, it's best to live in an environment that doesn't trigger those, and if you're lucky, find a job, an environment at work that doesn't trigger those either. Otherwise, people with hypersensitivity will find themselves frequently exhausted and stressed, and will need to rest a huge amount to recover from those daily struggles. In extreme cases, people may burn out, or even be pushed so far that they have a breakdown. So, treatment for hypersensitivities, obviously looking at food allergies and hypersensitivity to stimulants and depressants. The thing to do there is to avoid them. Obviously, if you're hypersensitive to refined sugars, then keep away from them. I think you'll learn pretty quickly to avoid any foodstuffs that trigger a severe anaphylactic shock that might lend you to hospital. Other hypersensitivities, such as environmental ones, may be difficult to pin down, particularly if they're quite severe, because you may find that most environments are particularly stressful for you, and it takes some perspective to be able to learn what those are. People with hypersensitivity can be treated pretty successfully with cognitive behavioral therapy. That helps them to identify when they are stressed, when their triggers have been pressed, and to recognize that they are in a stress state, and to find ways to mitigate that, either by removing themselves from a stressful environment or communicating to other people around them that they're stressed and why, so that those people can hopefully modify their behavior accordingly. Quite a lot of people may be treating anxiety conditions without realizing it. It's a cultural thing. For example, in the UK and many countries in Europe and Asia, for that matter, and the Americas, people drink alcohol. It's a sedative, relaxes people. To some degrees, you could categorize it as an antipsychotic, in that it just numbs the brain, calms things down. Other people smoke to relax. I mean, it's an addiction. It's slightly different, but it's a stress response. People take a cigarette break or go and have a cigarette if they're feeling particularly stressed. So there are lots of ways that ordinary people may be self-medicating anxiety conditions. For particularly severe anxiety conditions, or where hypersensitivity goes untreated for a very long time, people can be prescribed medication such as benzodiazepines, which work instantly in the moment, or antidepressants, or antipsychotics. And these all work to help regulate the chemicals in the brain, such as dopamine, for example, or serotonin, to help people just acclimatise to our environments, which are particularly busy if you live in cities, for example. And I think that's very important going forwards, is to recognise that as the world gets more crowded, as cities get more crowded, as competition increases for our resources, then we're going to see a lot more conflict, either overtly or less obviously, and that's going to place a lot of stress on people, and these hypersensitivities and diversities and neurodiversities are likely to be more obvious and be pushed out into the open, where people might have been able to hide them in the past. And I think that perhaps homelessness is an example of where society is failing to catch people who struggle, and obviously suicide is the absolute worst case, where somebody's decided they literally cannot cope in this world and they choose to leave it. So yeah, I think it's very important that we all have some awareness of hypersensitivity, and also I encourage those with hypersensitivity, or those who think they might be hypersensitive, to explore these ideas and not be afraid to talk to other people about it, because once other people know how you struggle, they're generally speaking pretty accommodating, and the solution may be just to let people know, and maybe to find a new place of work once you understand, if you're struggling, why that is. Okay. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.